25 now, but if you want to go ahead and start with introductions, I think
Okay.
Yes.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for attending the Student Affairs Divisional meeting. And to kick it off, I'm so very pleased and excited to have two distinguished guests joining us to kick off today's meeting. President Keith Whitfield and Executive Vice President and Provost Chris Heavey. So to get us started, President Whitfield, would you like to make a few comments? So pleased to have you here. First, thank you both for joining us.
And thank you for inviting me. I think this is a group that I have been so anxious to see in action on our campus. And I will get to see that very, very shortly. And so I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you all for all that you all have been doing. It's amazing when you see some of our retention numbers and some of the successes that our students are having in these times that have been so precarious. I think in higher ed in general, I think that UNLV has done a great job, and you all are directly responsible for that. So thank you so much for all that you've been doing. You told me to just say a few things, and so rather than be too much of a fanboy of this very special group, I'll stop there.
Well, thank you. Provost Heavey, Chris?
Yeah, thank you also, Juanita, for having me here, and delighted to just also follow President Whitfield in saying thanks to all of you for your work in an unprecedented year. I think undoubtedly the most challenging year of our academic careers. And as President Whitfield said, I think we have so much to be proud of about how we got through this past year. We have been looking at the numbers, as we all do, and one of the things that I think is very noteworthy is that other than Nevada State, UNLV is the only institution of higher education in the state of Nevada that's maintained its enrollment through the pandemic. And I think the students really show the value that they get from UNLV and from the work that you all do by the fact that they've stuck around through this most trying period. And I know you've been an incredible part of supporting the students through this journey. It's a mission that I hope you're all proud of, and I know how excited the president and I and Dr. Fain are to be partners with you in trying to basically help students improve their lives through the time that they spend with us. And I guess I'll just add that I know that we're going through now another transition, and I know that there's some concern and some tensions and also some anxiety maybe among some people about that. The mission that we have hasn't changed by the pandemic, and I think we've shown that we can do it under altered circumstances, but now we're eager to return to the kind of vibrant campus culture that we had before the pandemic. And so we thank you for coming back to campus to be ready to welcome our students back as the campus population picks up in the coming weeks. And in August, it's going to be, full scale ahead with mostly in-person classes again. And the campus, I think, will go back to being a vibrant place. And we all know that we fulfill our work through your efforts, that the team is what's necessary to do the work of the university. And we'll continue to think about how to best do that. We know there's some people who would like to, incorporate more flexible and remote work into their daily routines. We want to move cautiously in that regard because, as we all know, we are a primarily in-person campus, and so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves in that, but we'll continue to evaluate what can be the most effective working environment that will really help us fulfill our mission, but also, be in alignment with the goals of our faculty and staff to the greatest extent possible. So thanks for your patience as we work through that. Over the last year, I think you probably heard me say calm and care, that we're going to try to be calm about how we do everything and move cautiously and be caring for our students and caring for our team. And we'll continue to try to use those as guiding values moving forward. And thanks for putting this great meeting together, Dr. Fain. I saw the slides and a lot of great information to share. So I won't take any more of your time. I'll just listen in for a little while and hear about all the great things that you're all doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. And I would like to commend and thank you for your great and compassionate leadership during was probably an unprecedented time. I don't think any of us can remember a time in our history or in our career, in our lifetime, that was what we experienced this last year and a half. And I think with the leadership that President Whitfield and Provost Hebe has guided us through this time to get us to the other side. So we look forward to coming back to campus and seeing people in person. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I move on. First, I wanted to let everyone know on the call that this meeting is being recorded, and we will be placing it on YouTube at the conclusion of this meeting. It may be a few days before we actually get it posted, but it will be available for you on YouTube and for those who maybe couldn't attend today's meeting. And secondly, we will be going through several slide presentations, but Adam, Chris will put that in the chat, the download, so that you can download the slides. Because in the presentation, you won't be, there are going to be links in some of the slides, and you won't be able to get the link from the presentation, but you will be able to download the slides, and it'll have all of the links in them for you to access at a later time. So I wanted to start by, Adam, if you could start my slides, I appreciate it. I wanted to start with just restating what the mission is of our student affairs. The Division of Student Affairs facilitates student success and well-being in partnership with the campus community. And the reason I wanted to state that is because everything that we do, the decisions we make, how we move forward, will be based on that context, that we are first primarily here to support students in their success and their well-being, and also to be great partners with the rest of our campus community. And I know you know that, but I want to just keep that in the forefront as we go through, as we re-enter the campus and work with our students and colleagues. So with that, go to the next slide. Some of the slides that I'm going to go through now, you've seen before. We wanted to give it to you in one place. And so these are just references to the returning to in-person operations. As you know, tomorrow is the day that we return to reopen the campus. And we're very, very excited about that. And I wanted to just put this information in a slide so that you can have it to easily reference. As Provost and President said, we're very excited to be coming back in full force, but we also know that there will be some circumstances and situations where certain individuals, certain employees may need to have some alternative options. And so I wanted you to see that the FMLA page and also the ADA webpage as well. Next slide. Next slide, Adam. And so that's a lot of verbiage there, but this is the NSHE policy, the Board of Regents policy, the approved policy for flexible work time. And I just wanted to highlight sort of the guiding points in it. One is to establish a consistent system-wide parameters and guidelines that will be govern all institutional policies. And we've done that. Mandate that no policy may impede the quality of service or instruction to any student, coworker, or member of the public. And again, I go back to what our mission is as a Student Affairs Division. Recognize that only certain positions may qualify for remote work or telecommuting. Clarify that any policies that do not establish any new employee rights and is entirely discretionary. And provide that any policies must comply with all other applicable policies and procedures. The other thing that's in this statement is that if requests are denied, there's no avenue for grievance, reconsideration, or appeal. I do want to say that's generally true, but of course, if a request is made and then there's some change in circumstances or there's some clarification that's needed, of course, we would reconsider or relook at any request that we may have previously denied. Next slide. And this information is in the flexible work policy, but again, I wanted to point out the various types of flexible work schedules. And I'm not going to read this all to you, but a lot of times when people think of what's flexible work schedules, they first jump to telecommuting. And that's not necessary, that's one of the possibilities. That's one of the options under the flexible work policy. But there's also the variable work week. There may be some compressed time that would be innovative, again, depending on what the individual's work situation is. And there's also temporary flexible schedule. So, and then telecommuting is the fourth one. But many other options are just the telecommuting. And so the next slide is just a link. And again, you can't access the link from here, but you will from the slides. And that's just a link to the flexible work arrangement agreement form that you would need to complete. So if anyone is requesting to have one of those flexible work schedules, then they would need to complete this form and follow the directions on the form. Next slide. And then I have to, I first want to commend the human resources for developing what they have called the Rebel Reset. And this is programming to reassist faculty and staff as we return to campus. They have several different programs. I haven't figured out which one is my favorite one yet. Sort of the soft belly breathing seems interesting, yoga. But if you go to the Human Resources website, these are not offered all at the same time. So, but if you go to the website, it will indicate the schedule, what dates each of the various programs are offered. I think the very first one tomorrow, and I checked out the website, is a chair massages. That should be a pretty good one. So do visit that HR website. Next slide. And then the next, I'm going to shift a little bit. And again, it's a lot of verbiage there, and you can read it later. But what I wanted to, and you've probably, I'm sure you've seen information either internally through the campus news or on the media, local media, about NSHEEP planning to have a COVID-19 vaccine requirement for students. That has not been in place yet. And as we understand it right now, that won't happen until and when the emergency authorization is lifted. And we'll keep you posted on that. But I wanted to mention that because I think there will be questions and inquiries about that. Right now, we think that the soonest, and we don't know for sure, but this is right now, we just are speculating that the soonest that this would be a requirement. And again, this is for students. There's not been any indication that there would be a vaccination requirement for staff, for faculty and staff. But the soonest would probably be the beginning of January, so for spring semester. But again, I'll keep you posted. As soon as we get more information on that, I would definitely provide you with that information. And the next slide is just to kind of indicate how we would go about doing that. I think all of you know that we already have some vaccination requirements now that students must complete before they register as new admitted students to the university. So basically, it will be the same type of process. There will be exemption opportunities. And again, once we get that plan in place, we will make sure we let you know as soon as possible. But it will basically, I'm guessing, is going to follow the same kind of process that we use for the other vaccinations, where students will have to verify that they've been vaccinated before they're able to register for classes. So next slide. And then the next slide is just the Nevada. I'm shifting now to, I wanted to mention that a law was passed effective July 1, and this is for classified staff, that there will be collective bargaining unit opportunities. And this, again, the slide, you may not be able to see it very well, but there will be different categories with different unions will be working with different units. And right now, the Unit B, which is the administrative and clerical unit, so far a union has not been determined. They're campaigning now to determine what that will be. So that's the one that would impact us the most. Again, I'll keep you posted on that, and it'll be up to classified staff to determine whether or not they want to join the particular union. And so this is to let you know, and I think you all know, that we have eliminated HayReb, and also the mustache image. We are, of course, retaining our wonderful nickname of Rebels, but we are planning to have all images removed by fall semester, and hopefully before then. We've pretty much, I think we have a good handle on that already, but again, just to make sure everybody's aware of that. And then next slide. And I wanted you to be aware of some some key university appointments. The first I want to mention is the new ombuds person. We're very excited, and I know that there's been a strong interest for to reinstate the ombuds office. And I know, President Winfield, when you did your listening tours, that came up over and over again, the need to have the ombuds office. And so very pleased and excited that Dr. David Swartz has been appointed the new ombuds. So hopefully if there are issues, concerns that individuals have, that office will be there to assist and working through some conflicts and mediation. And then secondly, my good friend and colleague, Vice President for Human Resources, Dr. Erica Smith, will now be a direct report to President Whitfield, and also the Office of Equal Opportunity and Title IX will come under Dr. Smith as well. And her new title is Vice President for Human Resources and Chief People Officer. So I think we're very excited about that. And then to let you know that the Chief Diversity Officer position, a national search will commence this fall, and hopefully by at least by next year, this time, we will have a permanent Chief Diversity Officer. In the meantime, I think you all know I've been appointed as the interim Chief Diversity Officer, and making the rounds to meet with the various deans and other units, and basically so that we get a sense of what we want the role and scope of the CDO to be, and what the structure should look like, and what types of resources that position needs in order to be effective. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. And then finally, for my remarks for now, the upcoming campus-wide meetings, we're scheduled to have a student town hall meeting on August 4th. We are going to have a faculty staff town hall, and that date has not been finalized or determined yet. Another meeting I want to bring to your attention, and this will be something new. We're planning a fall semester opening meeting, and that would be for staff. We're looking at August 11th for that date, and it's really to bring staff from our campus community together. This is not a student affairs event, but a campus-wide event where we would bring all of our colleagues together to talk about, what's going on in our respective areas, and to share ideas. We will have some presentations, but also look at it as a celebration for us to kind of kick off the fall opening, and again, just to get together and see each other face to face and talk with our colleagues. Again, it's very special this year because we are returning, but I'm hoping that this can be an event that we continue to do every year. One of the things I'm particularly excited, this is different, but because UNLV Create is going to be remote, that was an opportunity where faculty and staff kind of got together who didn't see each other during the summer, and we got to chat and say hi during that time. So we won't have that particular event in person. So I'm particularly excited about having this fall semester opening meeting. So you'll be getting more information about that. And then the other item, next program I want to mention, I know this is near and dear to President Whitfield and Provost Hebe, is the MSI Student Success Summit, which is scheduled for September 24th. And really the focus of that summit is for us to talk about and share what it is, what kinds of things, what programs, services, academic support we need to have in place to make sure that our students are successful and graduate. And again, going back to our mission, that's our focus, is to provide and facilitate all of the services and support that we can for our students to be successful. And then finally, I want to mention that starting in the fall, I'm going to start doing what we're going to call BPSA departmental walkabouts, where I'm going to, I had started that before the pandemic, to come around and to your various departments just to say hi and to kind of see you in your place where you work. So we're going to start those up again starting during fall semester. So with that, I'm very pleased now to
Dr.
introduce.
Fay,
Yes, I'm
I
sorry.
have 2 questions. So, so we'll
Okay.
handle those because I think this might be the best time while we have the provost and the president here as
Great.
well.
Okay. Great.
The first one is, do we know when the mandatory vaccination guidelines may be in effect and shared with the public? And then the other is about Juneteenth, since it was a federal holiday. Will we get a paid holiday to use at another point this year, since we worked on Juneteenth this year?
Do you want to, if you, Keith or Chris, do you want to take a shot at that?
Sure. So I can start with the vaccination. So we don't know the answer to that question. What we understand is that the system has an intention to pursue the mandatory or mandating vaccines for students, not for faculty and
Right.
staff. And that would be a process that would have to move through the Board of Regents, potentially even the state legislature. And so we don't anticipate it would happen any earlier than January 2022 at the earliest, but it's kind of a wait and see how it unfolds. And then for the Juneteenth, the federal holidays, we the state generally honors federal holidays, but because it was just made a federal holiday right before, literally, I think the day before, it was not a state holiday. And so, no, there will not be a makeup holiday that will be issued. It will be up to the state to determine whether or not they do incorporate that into the holidays for state workers in future years. But we don't automatically get federal holidays off. We get them off by the state approving those as days off based on them being federal holidays.
Right. Yeah. In fact, yeah. And Governor Sisolak had indicated he doesn't even have the authority to do that. It has to be voted on by the legislature. Dr. Whitfield, did you want to add anything?
And the only thing I would add is that I think Chris gave the logical, sensible way in which we might see vaccinations be required for our students. But I would say just be prepared if something comes up sooner. I think as you all may be tracking, the number of COVID cases is actually going up again. And so I think that is raising additional concern. And so there's a possibility that we might see it, but it will cause us much consternation and be difficult to actually do for this fall. But I listen to Chris and I'm like, yeah, that's what makes sense. But sometimes things don't always make sense of that. We just need to be prepared that we may be asked to tell our students that they need to do it for this fall. And I just want to reify what he said about faculty and staff at this point in time. There is no requirement for them. But I just like to add, I understand that people have their reservations. I understand that people even have certain special circumstances that may keep them from doing this. But if you can get vaccinated, please do. It is a way that we will try to be able to reduce down COVID cases and to be able to function much more normally. So if you are on the fence of thinking about doing it, I just personally encourage you to do that. So thank you.
We did have one follow-up question. I mean, as these numbers increase, is there any concern that we might be looking at another reduction in services or closure or anything like that?
Let me start, and then Chris can jump in, and Juanita, you as well. One of the things that we have been doing all along through the pandemic is planning for the worst and hoping for the best. And so we have been making plans and thinking about the possibility of that happening. I always draw things in the air, and I'm sure Chris looks at me and just has a hard time following it sometimes. But as I think about how COVID typically happens when we get these spikes, what happens is that we get spikes, we hit a plateau, and then we come back down. And with 2 months until we basically are back in school, what I'm hoping is that we will see a decrease in those cases, in part just because of how long the cases last and how long these peaks that we see actually last. The challenge is what's causing it, because it's not as clear this time what may be causing it as it has been in the past. There's a suggestion of the Delta. There's the suggestion of that people who have not been vaccinated actually are just doing more things, and more cases are showing up. And so there's several ideas of why that may be happening, but I'm hoping that this will be short-lived. Anything to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I would just add that, as always, we'll continue to monitor the conditions to make sure that we're keeping people safe. The good news in this story is that the vaccinations, as President Whitfield said, are very protective against all the current variants. And so we encourage people to get their vaccinations, and people with vaccinations are seeming to be very well protected, even under the current circumstances. And so the resurgence in cases we're seeing is largely attributable to people who have declined to get the vaccinations thus far and are perhaps not taking full protective measures because, to protect themselves in their unvaccinated status. So we're encouraging you to get the vaccinations, and so far that we don't have any change in our plans because the vaccinations are keeping people safe against all the variants.
Thank you. Was that all in the chat, Adam? All right, thank you. Okay, so now it gives me pleasure to present Dr. Jamie Davidson, who is our Associate Vice President for Wellness. And thank you, Jamie, for all that you've done through the pandemic. And he and his entire staff have been exceptional coming up to the call of duty. So thank you for everything that you and your team have done to support us during this time. Jamie.
Thank you, Dr. Fain. So, as we all know, this last year and a half has really been super challenging, and none of us were really prepared for anything that happened. But, the bright spot here is just how well the campus community pulled together to support students, to support each other. So that was very encouraging. And a great example of this, I think, is the UNLV vaccination pod. Pod is point of distribution. People ask me that all the time, but that's what it means for the vaccinations. Over 130,000 doses vaccine were distributed. It was an incredible effort spearheaded by the Kirk Kerkorian School of Medicine, but many of the allied health programs, faculty, students were involved in that. Also, other schools were involved in the state, and also clinical staff from the Student Health Center were there, and we were contributing 3 to 4 clinical staff each day to the effort. Of course, that made it very challenging just to meet our regular obligations to students in the campus community. But vaccination is so important. It was clearly yes that we would continue to do that. Many others served on various committees that coordinated the UNLV response, developed safety guidelines, consulted with faculty and staff, reviewed campus events. Again, all these things just to help us to do the best to make UNLV the safe place that it was. Despite students being away from campus, student counseling and psychological services appointments increased 8%, and psychiatry endpoints also had a double-digit increase. And I think that's because COVID was very difficult for us in many ways, but especially impacts the emotional well-being of us. All of us. I think when you add in what many call the second and longer lasting pandemic and just all the tension and awareness of the racial prejudice and trauma that has impacted so many people, it just made it a very overwhelming period of time. So I think it was really important that we had amazing mental health staff there, here, and ready to support, and everyone else, in student affairs that was supporting in every way possible. You don't have to be a psychologist to help support and encourage others. The DRC worked very closely with faculty in the provost's office to provide accommodations for students impacted by the pandemic. For students that need accommodations, it was a big change for them to move to online and remote education. accommodation. So the DRC staff worked very quickly to get them the accommodations they need to minimize the disruption to their education. The UNLV support team had a 72% increase in the number of students referred for support during the pandemic. So it was overwhelming. We meet every week, and typically we may have 5 to 7. It went to an average of about 20, 25 students every week. And it's great that we have this wonderful multidisciplinary, multi-office team that comes together to support students. And it was great. And one of the amazing things from this is typically faculty are the ones who submit. Students were submitting other students. They were concerned about that. So that was a change and a welcome change, to be honest. The other thing that many people have not heard about is just that interpersonal violence surged during the pandemic. And I think that many people found themselves home with potentially abusive family members. And the Care Center throughout all this provided free and confidential support services to campus community members that were impacted by sexual assault, abuse, and family violence. So moving forward, and we will continue to do all those things. So to support you with COVID-19, we will continue to provide free COVID testing. That's by appointment in the Student Wellness Center laboratory. You can call and get an appointment. It's free of charge. COVID vaccinations, now that the UNLV pod has closed, will be offered by appointment in the Student Health Center for students, faculty, and staff and dependents who are age 18 and older. So as the president said and provost said, vaccination is really our best approach right now. So we have it. It's going to be very convenient for you. Just need to make an appointment, and family members too, 18 and over, can come in and get their vaccinations. We'll be holding vaccination clinics in conjunction with student orientation and campus housing events to make vaccinations easily accessible for our students as they come on. The other thing that I'm happy to announce is that the Student Health Center is partnering with the CDC and the American College Health Association on a social media campaign to encourage our diverse students to get vaccinated. So we are excited to get that started. I was asked to briefly address the concerns about the Delta variant of COVID. And why there's all the concern about the Delta variant is it's more transmissible than the other strains of COVID, and it may cause more severe COVID symptoms. So Delta is spreading nationally, and it accounted for nearly half of the cases in Nevada, as analyzed by the state's public lab in the last 2 weeks. So it's especially on the rise here. The important takeaway here is that vaccination is our strongest defense. All the studies recently have shown that all of the vaccines provided in the United States are safe with very few adverse events and are proven to be effective against all the current COVID-19 variants, including the Delta variant. So those who are fully vaccinated are significantly less at risk of being hospitalized, but there could be a small chance that you could catch the virus. But again, when you're vaccinated, it really minimizes the impact that you have. So some of you continue to be concerned, and if you're someone that has a number of risk factors, I think it may be in your best interest to wear a mask when you're in large groups of people, especially when you don't know their vaccination status. So I do that personally, and I think it's just a good, safe approach. And I've said it before, the vaccine will be available in the Student Wellness Center. It's a Moderna vaccine, just to let you know. And again, the other thing about vaccination, it's also the best thing you can do to protect others, because when you're vaccinated, that's the best way to interrupt COVID's ability to spread and to mutate. So it's important to remember that the pandemic is not over yet, despite the wonderful progress that has been made. So we still need to be vigilant. And that includes where fully vaccinated people start to feel sick. So I will say, if you feel sick, please stay home. The only way to know for sure if you have COVID is to get tested. So consult your healthcare provider. And again, we do provide free COVID testing in the Student Wellness Center laboratory. So learning supports. Many of you in student affairs have a lot of contact with students, so emails have been sent out, but it's really important that our students get the learning supports and accommodations that they need. And right now, there's two ways to do this. That's for students who get academic support, and that's through the provost office, or accommodations. And again, accommodations, what the difference is there, that's for individuals that have a disability that meets the ADA definition. For the summer and fall semesters. So if a student expresses concern to you about returning to on-ground classes, please have them complete the remote learning inquiry form. Sorry about that really long address for it. I'm not really sure how to use those little tiny ones that you see, but that's it. And if a student contracts COVID, have them complete the COVID-19 short-term support form at the address that's indicated on there. And that's an easy way to get short-term academic flexibility and support. You know, our goal is to support students when they have COVID, to minimize the impact on their academics, and, you know, and to provide them the guidance that they need. So looking at the Student Health Center and FAST Center, telehealth and in-person visits will continue to be offered. But we're happy that the Student Health Center and FAST have resumed offering preventative services such as pap smears, physical exams, and routine testing for STIs. Specialty services like gynecology, sports medicine, psychiatry, behavioral health, and the registered dietitian are available to students now for in-person visits. And again, those that prefer to be seen via telehealth, that is available. Some of you may have received an email or a letter in the mail telling you that the UNLV pharmacy is no longer a preferred pharmacy provider. I received one. It was news to me. So I assure you we are working closely with HR and PEBP to remediate this situation. Hopefully we'll have that addressed soon, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. All right, the DRC is scheduled to move and an expansion of services available. The new space will enable the DRC to offer expanded supports for students and to work more effectively with faculty. They will be moving to the prior FDA space. I think it's called the Campus Resource Center now, building on campus. So this will be great benefit to our campus community. DRC is continuing to work with OIT and faculty partners to create more proctoring processes that will enable our testing team to accommodate the testing needs of students with disabilities in online courses and programs. And the DRC now has a staff member, Dina Leland, sorry about the typo there, working on the Shadow Lane campus 3 days a week and is there to support the needs of the School of Medicine, the dental school, and all the allied health programs out there. So that's a great model, and we're hoping to do more of that with other schools in the future. The Gene Nidich Care Center will be providing satellite services to Nevada State College and CSN students during the fall semester. We received a grant to do this by the Victims of Crime Act. We call it VOCA. So this is a great opportunity. UNLV right now is the only school that has confidential care advocates that support their campuses. So we will be lending our expertise in helping our sister institutions in Southern Nevada. CSN also funded $1,000 scholarships, stipends for our volunteer care advocates. So that'll start fall 2021. So we're very appreciative of this. And, you know, this is just great for these care advocates who are getting incredible experience, but also, you know, just acknowledges their time and energies that they pour into this very important endeavor on campus. So clients can make appointments for advocacy in-house from 9 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday as the care center resumes in-person operations. And the Care Center will continue to provide virtual phone services, of course. And a new cohort of care advocates are finishing up the training, and they will be hitting the ground soon. So we're excited for that. And lastly, student counseling and psychological services and the behavioral health team, they did a great number of virtual workshops that were very well received this year on stress management, election stress, coping with COVID, quarantine, why queer, just to name a few of those. So expect more workshops to come. We have expanded in the sense that typically they used to be only for students, but whenever possible now, they will be made available to faculty and staff members, and they're fantastic, let me tell you. The Black Lives Matter Healing Space, it was co-facilitated with SDSJ, and Tuesday talks for students of color were well received and will continue to be offered by the Counseling Center. Also, in-person counseling, psychiatry, and behavioral health services will resume this fall. But of course, telehealth services will continue to increase the accessibility of our services. Students really enjoy telemental health services, and it also allows us to provide some after-hours coverage efficiently without keeping our offices open. So we will only expand doing that. And I'm very pleased to announce that CAPS received new student funding that will allow the office to provide after-hours crisis coverage, hire additional staff, and expand our efforts to support diverse student groups on campus. So that's the update from Student Wellness.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Adam, any questions in the chat?
Yes, we have two questions for Jamie. One is regarding insurance and the vaccine. So the vaccine was supposed to be free, yet some of us were charged through HealthScope for our shots. Why was it free to the public? But because we have insurance, we were charged. And then I'll ask you the second one too, so you can start thinking about it. Would it be safe to not wear a mask in our offices? I'm not sure what the vaccination status of my coworkers is, and I've been told I can't ask.
Okay. So there may have been a charge for administration. And again, this was administered by the Kurt Kerkorian School of Medicine. So you really need to address your questions to them. But I do think there was an administration charge, not for the vaccine itself. I can tell you, though, that if you come to the Student Wellness Center, there's no charge whatsoever, administration or for the vaccine. So good question, but you really have to check with them directly. In terms of wearing a mask, UNLV policy right now is that if you're in your office and you're individual, you don't need to wear a mask. If you're in an office that people are vaccinated, you don't need to. I think it's always a good idea to wear it in the hallways. I wear mine when I walk around in the hallways in various areas on campus. So it's just a good way to handle it. I think it just reduced risks. You know, at this point, I'm very comfortable wearing a mask, and I think most of us are too. So again, a lot of it has to do with your personal situation, you know, and if you have other risks that are there, I just think it's wise to wear a mask, especially with this new variant around there that seems to be more contagious. So.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so we'll move on to our next segment now, our student support resources. And we have a tag team for this one, Dr. Jed Harbin, who's our Executive Director for Student Affairs Strategic Planning and Assessment, and Stephanie Cooper, who is the Special Assistant to the Vice President for Student Affairs. So Stephanie and Jed, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fain. Well, I just want to first say hello, everyone, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you back on campus, and I'm excited to work with you in person again. Today, I'm going to briefly share 2 student resources that we have in place for our most vulnerable students. As we approach the fall semester and start seeing more students in person, we anticipate a steady stream of issues will continue to be seen in all of our offices, and many of those issues may still be pandemic related. As such, I encourage you to continue using sensitivity and compassion when assisting these students. Okay. All right. The first resource I want to share with you, Adam, can you scroll down to the student team referral slide for me? There we go. Okay. So this is the first resource I want to talk about, the student team referral form, and this is what Dr. Jamie Davidson was talking about a few minutes ago. Adam, can you actually click the link to the form and open that, and maybe just scroll through that slowly? Thank you. Okay. This form allows you to provide as much or as little information as you may have about a student's situation, so you don't feel like you need a lot of information to submit. This form can be used by faculty, staff, a student can self-report, a community member can use this to refer a student. It's very broad and very user-friendly. There's a field to provide information on any resources that you may have already provided to the student or know have been provided to the student. You can also indicate if you've collaborated with any other staff, faculty, anybody else to provide assistance to the student. And there's also an option to upload any documentation you may have, such as like an email. You can print an email to a PDF file and upload that. And at the very bottom of the form, you have the option to submit anonymously if you prefer. Okay. Now, this form should be used to refer urgent or sensitive issues such as food insecurity, risk of homelessness or homelessness, mental health needs, physically unsafe or abusive situations, or extreme financial hardship cases. Once this form is submitted, it goes to our university support team, or what we refer to as UST for short. And this team is comprised of an amazing group of staff who work together to quickly assess a student's situation and identify resources for them. And they use a very, very gentle approach in their outreach to the student. They never pressure or force the student to do anything or to utilize any of the resources that are provided. They're very, very gentle. And I just want to say, I cannot say enough good things about the members of this university support team. They are absolutely wonderful, and you should feel completely comfortable and confident referring students through here. And I just would like to remind you that student issues are oftentimes multifaceted and may involve collaboration amongst several departments, even departments outside of our division, to help resolve an issue. So I urge you, if you are ever in any doubt of what to do, if you're not sure if you should submit through this form or not, please do so. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, Adam, can you go back to the how can we help link slide for me, please? Perfect, thank you. All right, this is the second resource I want to talk about is our how can we help link. This resource was developed in April of 2020, right after the pandemic hit. And we assembled a large team of people from various departments and units across the campus to identify points of contact for a myriad of issues. Now that we've developed this system and built a strong network of staff to work with, it's really very easy to get a student connected to the right people and quickly. And this saves a lot of frustration for the student and really just eliminates that feeling of getting the runaround for them. This resource has proven to be so valuable to our students that we've decided to keep it in place permanently. And to date, since April of 2020 to date, my office has fielded more than 1,750 inquiries through this resource alone. So it's very valuable. It's been an amazing resource for our students. Now this resource is more for students to self-submit for general or non-urgent type of inquiries or issues. And of course, we see all types of issues that get submitted here, urgent ones, of course. But I would not recommend you ever directing a student to this link if they have an urgent matter. I would always recommend that you use the other form. The other form that I just spoke about. And Adam, did you pull up that link? Can you pull the link to that form? Did you already do that? One more time for me. There we go. Okay, so on this form, we ask very basic information from the student, just name, NSHE number, email, super basic. And then there are several issues that a student can select from, and they can choose as many as they want, ranging from advising issues, academic issues, library, mental health, financial, they can just choose as many as they want. And there's also an other box, and there's a space where they can type in specific details about their situation. And once the student submits this form, it lands in our general student affairs inbox in my office. And this inbox is monitored throughout the day, and our response time is typically within a few business hours or less. And this is a great resource for you to use in situations where a student may have a question that falls outside your purview or area of expertise. A student may have, again, a multifaceted issue, and you just aren't sure who they should talk to first. So instead of sending them down the wrong road or just suggesting something that you aren't sure, you can just give them this link and they can submit their question and we'll get right back to them. So my office manages a really high volume of very sensitive, complex, and high-level student issues. And if you're ever in doubt of where to direct an issue, I'm happy to talk scenarios through with you and answer any specific questions you may have. So please don't hesitate to contact me. Call me, email me. I'm happy to spend the time talking through a student issue with you. Now, these slides have all been provided to you electronically. I think Adam was going to put them in a Google Sheet for us. As you share this information with your teams and colleagues, please feel free to use this information on the slides as you deem appropriate. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here at all. And I've included the URL address in addition to the live links for those of you who would like to print the slides. Adam, next slide, please. Perfect. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Judd Harbin, and he's going to be discussing UNLV's student support webpage.
All right, thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Stephanie and I wound up submitting overlapping content, so we decided that we would tag team this instead of presenting separately. So thank you for sharing those first two forms. I want to go ahead and talk about another resource and tie it into a project that's going to be coming up this fall. UNLV, along with CSN, the United Way, and the City of Las Vegas, are part of a community of practice under the National League of Cities. Dr. Fain and Sue DeBella from the Office of Community Engagement are co-chairing a Student Basic Needs Committee, because part of this community of practice is looking at how we are addressing barriers to students meeting their basic needs on campus. I'm not on this committee, but I'm providing some technical assistance in developing a survey, and we've been working on this for a few months now. Some of you have been involved in that process, and so thank you for your contributions to creating this survey. This survey will be launched in September, the third week of classes, because we wanted to make sure that we got over the surge of students coming in and giving them a chance to get settled in, and then sending them this survey to ask them if they are facing any barriers related to meeting their basic needs. Next slide, please. And so the survey is going to address the 6 areas that the community of practice has defined, and that includes food, housing, transportation, mental health, digital access, and childcare. The survey will hit on all of those areas. It's going to be a fairly quick and simple survey. Students should be able to finish it in 5 to 7 minutes. If they want to take some optional additional modules, they can do that, and the survey is advising them how much additional time they might be committing to. But we'll share more information about that when we get a little closer to the survey. I want to go ahead with the next slide, please, and talk about how this survey is feeding into this next resource. The survey is asking, with this survey, we're asking how many students do we have on our campus who are facing these barriers. We have different sources of information about this to help give us some estimates, but we don't have anything that's been systematically collected that would attempt to cover all of them. So we're going to try to do that with this survey. I didn't want to just simply survey the students and ask about barriers to basic needs without also giving them some information about resources on campus that they could tap into and addressing those. So next slide, please. As the Basic Needs Committee was working, that committee developed a student support page, and it provides some of the, you might think of gateway offices and resources on campus, some of the first places that students might go for any of these basic needs areas, and includes all of the resources that are listed here on the screen, including those 2 forms that Stephanie just described, the UNLV support team and the How Can We Help web form. But it also provides other information here. When we do this survey this fall, we're going to send it to all of our students. The invitation email for them will include a link to this page. So even if they don't do the survey, they will still get a link to this page and be able to see it and use this as a resource. If they do complete the survey, the last page of the survey will take them to the student support page. So as they finish it up, they will see this page and they will get an email that reaches back out to them and thanks them for participating in the survey and provides the link to this page again. We want to make sure that the students know that this resource is here, they know what the resources on campus are. Even if they are not facing a barrier right now, we know circumstances change. In 2 weeks, they could be facing a barrier or more than one barrier. Maybe it's next semester, but we want to make sure that we put this in front of students so they know that there are resources on campus to help them. And last slide, please. So this page, I just want to go ahead and put the link up here so you can see it. It's unlv.edu/campuslife/student-support. And I would just point out that in this case, Campus Life is referring to Life of Campus section of our website, of UNLV's website. It's not referring to the administrative unit where I was originally employed and that is now known as Student Life. So hopefully we will have lots of folks tuning into this page to get the resources and support that they might need.
Great. Thank you both. Any questions, Adam, for Jed and Stephanie?
No questions.
Okay, well, let me first thank you both. Thank you, Jed, for all of the work that you've done on the Student Basic Needs Committee. I think that's going to give us very valuable information. And I have to commend and thank Stephanie for all of her hard work. She's mentioned 1,700, but that's just the form. She probably does another 2,000 phone calls, and then you'll be walking. So, so thank you, Stephanie, for all that you do. And she does it with such compassion and love, really. So thank you both. So next, the next section is going to be on fiscal and administrative updates. And for that, we have Summer Mudd, who's the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs, Finance, and Administration. And Summer, during this last year and a half with the hiring freeze and the furloughs and all of that, she's just been invaluable in supporting us and helping us through all of that. I think she has a superwoman's cape that she changes in the telephone booth. So Summer, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Fain, for the kind words. First slide, please, Adam. Okay, so today is the last official day of FY21, June 30th. So hooray, we made it. Tomorrow is the first day of what we hope to be the best fiscal year we've had on campus in a long time, FY22. So the finance leads in your areas are all working diligently to close the fiscal year and to open the new year. So we just appreciate a little bit of grace as we get to your fiscal questions. So with that, with FY22, so you might have recalled from one of my previous presentations to this group, they were a little dismal. I hope that this presentation is a little less dismal. I probably caused some heartburn for those listening to me the last couple times. You may recall that we received a state budget reduction of $642,000 in FY21. I am happy to report that about $220,000 of that has been restored in our state funding for FY22, and we'll of course continue to advocate for full restoration in future fiscal years. But in addition to the $220,000, Student Affairs also received $1.44 million in new state funding for FY22 to support enrollment growth. So admissions, financial aid, military veteran services, and international recruitment all got a piece of that to support positions and operations to help with enrollment growth and to support our students as our enrollment does grow. State budgets should be loaded into Workday as of tomorrow, July 1st. I didn't get a chance to check this morning. I wanted to, but to see if sometimes they're loaded early, but they should be there tomorrow, and check your budgets in there. So I'm looking for a deep, not ready yet, Adam, for this next slide. We're waiting for detailed state budgets that we will roll out to the finance leads when those become available. Okay, next slide, please. So for FY22 self-supporting budgets, those have all been approved as of mid-June. So the finance leads for each area should have gotten the details on that. I did want to say congratulations to those of you that had some input towards those efforts. We got accolades, we've got kudos, we've got good job from the budget office on how well Student Affairs put their budgets together for FY22. So good job to those of you that contributed to that effort. The same with the state budgets. The self-supporting budget should be loaded into Workday tomorrow. If you have any trouble finding those budgets, just reach out to your finance leads for your units. And if they need help or support, Delia and I are here to answer questions on that. Next slide, please. COVID-19 relief funding. So there's been a lot of acronyms that have been thrown around regarding this funding over the last several months. So I just wanted to give one slide here just to kind of give a brief overview. The Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, commonly referred to as HERF, was developed by the federal government to provide funding for higher education institutions to address COVID-19 impacts from that. That particular fund was funded by three different acts, the CARES Act, the CRISA Act, and the ARP Act. So you will also hear those referred to as HERF 1 for CARES, HERF 2 for CRISA, or HERF 3 for the American Rescue Plan. Next slide, please, Adam. A quick overview of what funding was received in student affairs. So you can see that overall, from all three, HERF 1, 2, and 3, student affairs has gotten up to this point about $11.7 million. I feel very fortunate for us that we were able to advocate successfully for a significant amount of dollars from those funds. You can see we've got a little breakdown there for the support received by unit. So enrollment and student services, 1.85 million, student life, formerly campus life, 8 million, student wellness, 1.3 million, and the vice president's office, $500,000. And so those of you that are pay attention to the numbers, probably looking at student life and seeing that there is a larger portion allocated to that unit, and that's directly a result of the amount of revenue that was lost in their area. So if you see there, the second column, you can see they've lost about almost $7.4 million. So that's just, that contributes to the total for them. Next slide, please, Adam. Okay, hiring freeze summary. So yes, Dr. Fain mentioned that there was quite a bit of paperwork related to that. So we are appreciative of all the work that you have done in your units to help us get these hiring freezes through the system, through the government machine. I am pleased to announce that the hiring freeze has been rescinded as of tomorrow. So hooray, hooray. A lot more efficiency in those processes. So beginning now, units can return to what their normal recruiting processes are. If it's been so long that we forgot what the normal recruiting processes are, the HR leads for the units should know what those processes are. But if there is any questions, please reach out to them first, and then those folks can reach out to either Delia or myself to answer questions on how to get recruitments through the process. And I am pleased to report over the last 15 months, we were able to successfully advocate for 106 full-time positions to be recruited during the hiring freeze. So I feel grateful that we were able to get that many positions through the system in the last 15 months. And that's not including GAs, LOAs, and regular student positions. So next slide, please, Adam. Okay, employee furloughs. So also pleased to announce that the employee furloughs that were in effect for FY21 do not continue into FY22. So the furloughs were only in effect for the last 6 months of the last fiscal year. So the last paycheck that you would have seen a reduction from furlough should have been whatever last paycheck you received. So professional staff, that would have been your June 1st, and classified staff, that would have been your June 25th. Your next paycheck that's due to you, which would be tomorrow for professional staff and on the 9th for classified, you should not see a furlough reduction in that paycheck. So check your paychecks, make sure your furlough is not coming out. It shouldn't be. Next slide, please, Adam. And then retirement plan and health insurance. So you may have heard that the retirement plan contributions for both professional and classified staff will increase from 15.25% to 15.5%. That's effective July 1st. So that's going to be both for the retirement plan alternative, the RPA, administered through TIAA-CREF for professional, and through PERS for State of Nevada PERS retirement system. The paychecks that you will see those changes reflected in will be the August 1st paycheck for professionals and the July 23rd paycheck for classified positions. And then the last little bullet point there is we are expecting a health insurance premium for all employees for 1 month in FY22. And I didn't get a chance to get it into the slide, but I got confirmation this morning that health insurance premium holiday should be in October of this year. So basically what that means is you're still covered for health insurance. You just don't have to pay the premium for that month. And with that, I think that is my last slide.
We had one question that I don't exactly know what it means. Will COLAs be given this month?
Oh, COLAs will be effective in FY23 at 1%. So that would be July 1st, 2022.
Sounds good. I think that was all of our questions. Let me just double check one more time, because whenever I stop sharing the screen, all of the Q&As go away. So I have to bring them back up every time. Let me just see. Yep, I think that was it for you, Summer. So
Yay, thank you. Dr. Finn, I think you might be on mute.
Yes, thank you. I was on mute because I didn't want to interrupt you. Thanks again, Summer, and thank you again. You should all know that Summer has been a fierce champion for us for student affairs during this time. So thank you again for all that you do. Next up is Enrollment and Student Services, Dr. Steve McKellips, who's our Associate Vice President for Enrollment and Student Services. And again, Steve, to you and your team, thank you for all of your hard work and diligence. As the Provost indicated, we may be down a little bit, but our enrollment is still holding, holding pretty strong compared to other NSHE institutions and really across the country. And that's a testament to all of the great work that you and your team are doing, Steve. So take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fain, and I couldn't agree with you more. The impact of enrollment across the country has been a significant topic for sure. I will allow you to put the PowerPoint slides up, Adam, and we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with financial aid. The financial aid team has been working super hard throughout the pandemic, as they do every year. But this is a little bit of a different process this year, of course, with everybody working in a remote capacity. But I want to really kind of hone in on the last few months of the fiscal year, particularly in April and May. A conscious effort was made to distribute about just under $6 million specifically to students with outstanding balances. We had two objectives here. We wanted to make sure that those who still planned on registering had the opportunity to do so. So we're trying to eliminate holds and balances as much as we could. But we also knew, of course, back in April and May, we didn't know that the return to campus operations would be as close as July 1, or that fall would be in person. But we knew that if the pandemic was as significant as we were hearing, there would be a lot of people who would really struggle with the balance debt that would be living on those particular accounts. So we really tried to be as accommodating as we could to try and remove as much of that obligation as we could. So I want to give credit to Barb Roberts and her team for trying to identify a way to redistribute some of our institutional monies, specifically try and remove some of that balance. And we're pleased to say that 4,300, a little over 4,300 students were able to get their balances reduced, and the vast majority of those people got their balances reduced to zero, which makes it a lot easier for those students to obviously go on with their lives as they choose. Hopefully they'll return. But we also knew that this was one of those great reliefs to students who are trying to make their way through this pandemic environment. Moving toward the HERF money, if you're not familiar with that acronym, it's basically the next round of CARES money. Remember, a year ago it was called CARES. This new cycle, new president, new strategy. We're referring to it as HERF money. I want to point out that the 11.5 million that I'm describing here is not the same 11.8 that Summer was just mentioning. That's institutional money. This is money that we are distributing to students. We gave it out to about 15,000 students here at the university. I wanted to identify a real conscious effort to make sure that we were awarding even those students who are graduating in the spring and the summer term, and then the remaining balance to about 9,600 students, both grad and undergrad here at the university. Those two things worked in concert. Our goal was to try to reduce the balances down to zero as best we could, and then offer students this opportunity for the resources and the HERF money. We did something different in that we created a process where we would allow students to tell us how they'd want to use the money that they were being given from the HERF. And we were maybe I was more surprised than others, but I was really pleased to see people say that now that their circumstances were covered, the vast majority of those students were saying, why don't you hang on to it and I'll use it for my future bills at the university. And so it was a great opportunity to give out that money and have students basically try to hold it and make the next semester a little bit easier for them to handle as well. So it proved to be a really good opportunity for students to receive that benefit from the government, but then also apply it towards a potential solution in the future, as well as in some cases having them help students in the present. So we're really pleased to be able to offer that conditional opportunity for students to help either now or in the future as they move forward. Adam, you can move ahead. Looking at the transition now to the fall 21 physical operations, we wanted to identify that this is the first year now that we have 2 cohorts who have not been to campus. And so we've got some programming efforts going on for that population for fall of 21, as well as the returning population from fall of 20, neither of whom really had the advantage of being physically on campus yet. When we come back in the end of August, neither of those groups have really had any time on campus. So through a campus-wide initiative, we've got some programming efforts going on from July, middle of July to the middle of August, to help bring those populations to campus and help expose them to the campus services and departments and units and tours, just to try to help that transition back to the physical proximity of the campus with the transition to the new school year. So we're really excited about that. The UNLV creates, at the time the slide was created, we were committed to the remote function. We at the time were trying to work on an in-person possibility. That has not been the direction that we're going to go. So that's not accurate any longer. We are committed to a remote function. So that is no longer a possibility for us to work on an in-person solution. So while that was one of those elements that we were going to announce, we've made the decision since then that we'll stay in remote status. The last part of that is the campus tour program. I think everybody's aware that we do tours and that we continue to do the tour program, but I think most people aren't really familiar with how that actually works. So I just wanted to put that in there. What's unique about returning back, if you can go back one slide for a second there, Adam, just to the admission, there you go. I wanted to make sure people knew that we're opening up our tours on July 12th. We need to get the tour population familiar with the tours and ready, and of course transitioning back into that schedule. So we've spread our tour program out a little bit over the course of the week to give us a little bit of a natural transition back. We will then combine regular tour programs with our virtual tours for these for several weeks. And then by the time the school year actually begins, we'll be back to our regular schedule of 10 and 2 for the rest of the school year, with those virtual tours remaining as a regular part of our protocol going forward. Now we can go forward, Adam. I wanted to identify some of the amazing work that the registrar's office has done over the course of the pandemic. If you can imagine, without any notice, calling the registrar's office and saying, hey, I have an idea, let's make every single class at the university a remote class. And then all of a sudden in the middle of a semester saying, hey, I have an idea, let's take every remote class and see how many of those we can make in person. We've done this amazing exercise a couple of times now in the last 18 months. I want to give amazing props to the registrar's office, who have done maybe 1,000 different scenarios on how we can schedule an academic experience with an amazingly variable percentage or proportion of in-person and online course delivery. So what you see there is the course delivery for fall 21 compared to the course delivery of 19. The reason I didn't compare to 20 is because it was all remote. But you can see that as we return back to an in-person delivery for fall, it is largely comparable to what the fall 19 course was. You can see some version of what I would describe as some familiarity with the online coursework being a suitable or desirable opportunity, such that you can see some reduction in the in-person course delivery, albeit small reduction. But for the most part, you can see we're back to a pretty similar or traditional kind of curriculum delivery per the fall of 2019. Adam, you can go forward again. And then the last thing I wanted to show is just this quick breakdown of enrollment. I could talk about enrollment all day, and those who know me best know it's true. But for the purposes of this exercise, I won't do that. I'll just give highlights of some general numbers. And if you see me in the halls or somewhere on the sidewalk, I assure you we can talk the rest of the day away. Generally speaking, the application season this particular year, we were about even on absent admits, but those that have chosen to accept our application or our admission offer, that population is down a little bit. We do see the incoming cohort down by comparison. Ironically, the transfer applications seem to be demonstrating a trajectory upward. Overall, the undergraduate enrollment is down a little bit, about 3.1%, where the grad enrollment is up about 11, almost 12. Our total enrollment right now, as of when I ran this on the 25th, we're up 0.1%, basically flat. There are some variables that happen when you count overall enrollment based on what day you look at the numbers and what have you. So the actual precision of how much this or how much that is a little bit of a variable that kind of ebbs and flows. So the actual number itself is a little bit less important on the day you look. So overall, I want to echo what Dr. Fain and what Dr. Heavey had mentioned, that for the most part, our institution continues to hold in its enrollment position. And then probably the one area of concern that I certainly wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we continue to watch is the retention number. We're a little over 6% behind last year's number, and I wanted to make that point clear because that retention position is one of those elements that the whole university needs to help kind of contribute toward, reminding everybody that we all interact with students and in our own way, in our own offices, in our own hallways, in our own sidewalks in some way. And we just need to know that everybody coming back to campus has had the same kind of 18 months that we've all had. And so to encourage everybody to be patient and calm and relaxed, and to recognize that even the students that we're dealing with, they had the same 18 months that we did. So the more compassion and understanding that we can share with our students, the more comfortable and confident they'll be as they go through this transition as well. So that's the end of my remarks. I'm happy to field any questions should there be any, but thank you all for your time and congratulations on getting to the other side of this.
Thank you, Steve. Adam, any questions for Steve?
No questions.
Okay, well, again, thank you and your team, Steve, for all the great work you're doing. Next up is Student Life, which is the new name for Campus Life. Dr. Renee Watson, who's the Associate Vice President for Student Life. And again, thank you. A lot of the work that you do in Student Life Unit does positively impact retention and establishing that sense of campus connectedness. So again, thank you and your team for the great work that you, even during the pandemic, you continue to provide programming and services. So I commend you and your team for all of that. So Dr. Watson, take it away.
Well, good afternoon and good to be with you. There's some exciting developments and programs taking place in student life that I'm happy to share with you all today. Let's start with housing residential life. Our housing occupancy continues to grow. As of today, the total number of applications is 1,120 applications. We're lagging behind a little bit since 2019 by 413 applications, but we are doing our best to increase those housing numbers. We've made tremendous efforts by putting Boyd and Rodman residence halls to convert those to single rooms to allow residents to have more options of room selection. And so after priority room selection, the Rodman residence hall that was moved to singles is full, and the Boyd residence hall is half full. And so we expect to fill the building from the waiting list of students waiting for a single room. So we'll work with our AVS management team and the housing residential life staff continue their marketing efforts during orientation and through mass email to incoming students in order to increase housing occupancy numbers. Student Life Technology launched a project to replace the exterior blackboard locking system in the student union. And so the Salto locking system is touchless. Next slide, please. In the student involvement activities area, a proposal is being drafted right now to see how we can provide a justice impacted individuals program to serve students on our campus. This will be a multi-year action plan with funding to cover full-time staffing, programming, scholarships, and emergency funds to assist the student population. So plans are underway also for Welcome Week. Welcome Weeks will be held from August 16th through the 24th. You must complete the Welcome Week spreadsheet by July 23rd to be included on the posters to promote Welcome Week. And you may contact Sunny Gittens for more information. We can also send to you the Welcome Week spreadsheet via email so that you can begin that process if you're interested. Next slide. Definitely want to highlight the Welcome Week's 2021 activities. Some of our signature programs that will be offered. So just browsing through the list of events that are offered. And we're also excited about the MSI Student Success Summit, which has been added to the lineup of Welcome Week's activity. Next slide. Student diversity and social justice. We have new staff members. We welcome Egypt Howard as our Black African American Program Coordinator. Likewise, we look forward to welcoming Dr. Leslie Doyle, who will be the interim director for SDSJ starting August 4th. Starting August 1st. Dr. Doyle comes to us from Rockhurst University in Kansas City, Missouri, where she previously served as the Chief Inclusion Officer. Then we'll also launch the LGBTQ Program Coordinator search so that we can have that position filled, and hopefully someone will be in place and start of the fall semester. Please check out the wonderful virtual classroom that Egypt Howard created to celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas in 1865 to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people be freed. There's music, television, and documentary links to view in the virtual classroom. Next slide, service learning and leadership. We have a new staff member, Heather Richardson, who's going to be our program coordinator for UNLV Fostering Scholars. We'll launch that program this fall. This will provide wraparound services and programs to better support UNLV foster youth. So we're excited to have Heather on staff. In addition, Hope Scholars, our program support unaccompanied homeless youth, will accept a new cohort this fall of students. In addition, this team was able to generate support from the degree. The degree will have 8 no-cost 12-month beds to offer to students in the Hope Scholars program, which will allow our Hope Scholars to experience apartment living. And this in-kind gift is valued at $171,000. This team has also secured a grant from United Way of Southern Nevada for $180,000 over 3 years. These funds will be used to support students in this program. And we're also pleased to hear that we've been able to partner with the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office to support summer expenses for students who will join the Hope Scholars program right after attending graduation, right after coming out of high school after they graduated. Next slide, we're going to talk about Campus Rec and Student Union Event Services. There are a number of services to take advantage for recreation. So we have our bike shop, we have the courts are back open. It's a space to be used. We also have the group fitness workouts. The June and July schedule is available for viewing. And you can also take advantage of equipment rentals for camping and hiking, for outdoor activities. For the student union, Jamie covered the wonderful pod that we had where we provided shots, and so that's been closed. But we were very happy about those efforts. And we're excited to announce that the student union will now have a prayer room to be offered starting August 1st. And so that will be in Student Union Room 227, and more details to follow as we figure out the plan and logistics of how we will make that available to students. But we're definitely excited to offer a prayer room this fall. And the last update that I want to share with you is Student Life has rolled out the new logo for Student Life. This was a party effort that started way back in October 2019. And so thank you to Adam for leading these efforts. It provides a new cohesive look for all areas within Student Life. It was developed in consultation with integrated marketing and branding. We had a Student Life rebranding team that came together to talk through the concepts. And this logo really speaks to the collaboration and awareness of the impact and reach that Student Life has, and the connectedness that we would like for students to feel a part of this campus and a part of the services that we offer. And guidelines on how to use the unit signature, as well as the Student Life logo, will be offered to staff either mid-July, if not sooner. So these completes the updates that we have for Student Life, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Renee. Any questions for Renee, Adam?
Yeah, just one question.
Okay.
Someone asked about if campus housing is still required for all out-of-state freshmen.
Yes, we are enforcing that. And if there are situations where things need to be waived, then there's a process in place for those kind of discussions to take place with housing personnel to make that determination.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Renee, and to your team. And I love the new logo. very nice. And it was, and the process I thought was a really good one. So thank you for that. So next up is University Family Network, which I'm so proud of and pleased that Heather Rappaport, our Director of Development for Student Affairs, is so committed to this. She developed this initiative and has really put her heart into it. So Heather, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fain. It's great to see everyone, at least virtually today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Family Network and then about our development initiatives for the year. So Adam, could we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So really the goals of this program are building connections with the families that are coming in. We do this through our parent orientations, but also through Facebook and phone calls and emails and all those different types of ways that families might want to interact with us. The top questions that we have been getting are pretty typical. Right now we're answering questions about move-in and parking and things of that nature. But then also we have a lot of questions about how we're welcoming second-year students who haven't been to campus yet. So of course, like Steve mentioned, there'll be some special programming for them, but I think it's just interesting to point out that there's a lot of anxiety surrounding returning to campus for these students that haven't been here before, but they are UNLV students for a whole year or potentially more. We are planning a family day, hopefully in October, just like we did 2 years ago, that will have a brunch in the dining commons and a football game and some other activities around campus for students to invite their families to. A lot of our schools that we might compete with, they call this Parents Weekend, but we're especially sensitive to the fact that family could mean anything. And so we, of course, allow students to invite whomever they would like to come to our family day, because the goal is to build connections for the long term. We can go to the next slide, please. I have lots of fun pictures to share with you that families sent in from the last year. So one of our engagement opportunities are e-newsletters, and these are monthly updates that really provide a lot of resources to the families to reinforce all of the things that you all are doing. And we increase the frequency of these as needed. So if there were special announcements that came out, particularly related to COVID and academic support, we shared those. And the hope is, of course, that we're taking some pressure off of your offices and reinforcing your messages. We have between 3,500 and 6,000 unique opens each month, and that's in all 50 states and about 50 countries where students come from. And since January, we've added 400 new family members, and each orientation we add 50 to 100 more. We can go to the next slide. One of the programs that's near and dear to our heart is Letters from Home. So we did convert this to an online program last year where families were able to download the stationery or just email us or mail something in, and we scanned it and emailed it to families. So we did do a qualitative study that examined the words and sentiments that families shared. And the word most frequently that came up in these letters was proud. So it's just really heartwarming to read what families have to say. And I shared some of those on the slide here. One of them I'll just read. My family received her letter and texted me right away. Thank you for sending them out. My daughter was a little homesick the day before she got the letter. And when she received the letter, she was very thankful. So we just really believe this is a great way to help families connect and support their students. And for students who may not have family members that could write a letter for them, we do invite community members to write to them. So the Hope Scholars, for example, received letters from community members for support. Next slide, please. And then I'm really happy to share with you, this number isn't final since we're just getting to the end of the fiscal year, that we had a record-breaking fundraising year for us. at just a little over $1 million that came in to support student affairs programs. So thank you to each and every one of you for your efforts. I know a lot of you not only are donors, but you also speak to a lot of community members, and all of that really encourages them to support students. So I'd like to just talk about a couple of those major gifts that came in on the next slide, please. We have a Gray Family Scholarship that primarily this year is going to CAEO, and this is a person who retired. He's a doctor in the Reno community, and he went to UNLV and is a very proud alum, and he very much wants to give back to students the way that he was set on a great path when he attended UNLV. The Ron Popeye Moore Veterans Endowment. This is a brand new one. This is a community member who did not attend college, but very much wants to support students in their academic dreams. And that is a veterans scholarship that will be new, and it's endowed. So that means it's like a savings account and will only spend the interest. So each year it will grow and grow. The KB Foundation continues to support veterans. They increased their gift substantially for the coming year, just based on the need that was there. Silver State Schools Credit Union has been a big supporter of orientation for many years, and they continued their support through the pandemic. We're very grateful to Brenda and Russell Frank. They were one of the original donors to the Hope Scholars program, and they continue to support with a major gift each year. The Nielsen Foundation, this is a gift in collaboration with the Disability Resource Center, and these are students who have spinal cord injuries, and they'll be receiving very significant scholarships to UNLV that will also help them not only academically, but with their personal needs support. And then the Judy Tudor Foster Youth Scholarship. This is another endowment. EIP stands for Endowment in Progress. So this will support the new Guardian Scholars program that's coming online for foster youth. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that I'm working on a labyrinth and family garden landscaping project. There's a lot of you that are involved in this, and we'll have several open houses where folks can come and see the rough idea of the plans and contribute and give us your input as far as the design. So this is donor funded, and it's a focus on mental wellness and building outdoor spaces for students and staff to go. Like I said, the plans are just being designed now, and we're looking forward to seeing what the landscape architect comes up with, and we'll gather your feedback.
Disconnected.
So that.
Oh, I think you might have stalled just for a second there.
Yeah, I
Heather,
think
if you
you
want to
got stalled
repeat
for
that.
just a minute, right at the end of your comments about the labyrinth.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that you'll see more information in the coming months. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Heather, Adam?
Nope, there are none.
Okay, so the $1.1 million fund, isn't that like a record?
It is for us, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Aside from that one year where we had the major gift to start the Ingolstadt scholarships, this is the next best year.
Well, great, good job, and thank you all for all your great contributions. And last but not least, the man who's been steering, controlling the traffic is Adam Crisp, who's our Director of Communication for Student Affairs. So Adam.
Yes, thanks so much. One thing that I guess I'll start off talking about new guidelines for campus-wide communications from Student Affairs. You know, we all know that over the last year, we've gotten inundated with messages and about really serious topics. And so these new guidelines aren't a drastic change. They're just kind of putting words to an informal policy that was probably existing for a long time. It basically just says that if you want to message the entire campus community about any particular issue, whether that's a message of support or solidarity, or if you just want to announce new programming, that you follow certain processes to get that going. I'm here to support you, and so is your supervisor. And so those are the two people that you need to go to. So we've been sharing these guidelines with supervisors, but the basic thing that we want you all to know is that if you want to send a message like that, start with your supervisor, let them know what you want to do, and then partner with me. Our goal is to have that, to be able to help you get that message distributed in the most effective way possible, within 24 to 48 hours. So please, turn to us if you need to do that. The thought is that sometimes when a unit or an office wants to communicate with the entire campus community, it may be a time whenever we want the president or the vice president to join you in those messages. So to be able to, provide the greatest impact possible, and to reduce the fact that maybe we're emailing people multiple times about the same topic. So when you want to message the entire community, campus community, reach out to your supervisor, and they'll partner with me, and we'll give you the support that you need. That doesn't apply to Rave and social media and your internal email list. You can still continue to use those as you have in the past. But of course, if you ever need support with those kind of communications, that's what I'm here for. So please reach out. Next slide. Telling myself to do that. So one of the big initiatives that you'll see throughout the campus, through all of our communications, is that we want to tell stories of student success. That's a big emphasis for President Whitfield. He's encouraging us to brag about our students and our alumni, with the thought being that we have students here who are having tremendous achievements and overcoming obstacles, and doing so with the support of student affairs and the folks on the academic side. So when you have those kinds of stories, please reach out and share them. So this link is here that you can download. You can get from the presentations that we sent out earlier. You can also just email me and tell me. It doesn't have to be eloquently written. You can just say, Heather, the other day, one of the students that receives that scholarship for the neurological impairments, we expect that student one of the very first students in that program to graduate this year. And so she put that on my radar to let me know that that's going to happen, so that we can spotlight that student. And we think that those kind of stories of student success and students overcoming adversity is the strongest endorsement that we can have for UNLV and for student affairs. So please do not hesitate to share those stories with me, so that we can make sure that they get the spotlight that they deserve, and that we can brag about what student affairs does to impact the lives of our students. So we've had a lot of town halls, including this one that we're doing here. This is a divisional meeting, but we'll continue with these kind of meetings because we think that we've had great response from them. So the next one coming up is on August 4th. So please join us for that and tell your students about it. Yeah, and then we continue to promote student affairs on social media. You'll see those stories about the positive impacts that we're having on students' lives on our Instagram. We also are trying to provide individualized communications with students on the platforms that they enjoy. So Reddit has been a place where we've been able to talk to students. So periodically you may hear from me where students have questions that they've posed on Reddit, and I'll reach out and ask, try to find them solutions and connect them with resources. So, and this was a video that we did with Joshua Padilla, the president of CSUN, to promote vaccines earlier in the year, and it was viewed by several thousand students, or several thousand people. We don't know if they were students, but yeah. So, and if you have any ideas on how we could be more effective in that way, please let us know, and please follow us. It's just UNLV Student Affairs on Instagram, and I'm proud to report that. Now that the provost isn't in the meeting anymore, that we have surpassed the provost number of followers, which was my own little benchmark of pettiness. No, just kidding. But anyway, so we did beat the provost. So go us. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys.
Thank you. I'll make sure I'll share that with
yes, absolutely. Julie will love me for that. Yes.
And also, by this fall, we want to have our student affairs newsletter up and going, which will be another avenue by which we can brag and promote all of the great things that we're doing. So we are just a little bit over time, but in closing, I just wanted to again thank you, and know that all of us in different various ways have been impacted, some more seriously than others, during this pandemic. and to know that I'm very aware of that, very sensitive to that. We all are, and we care deeply about you and the issues you may be dealing with. Again, we want everybody to be on campus, but we will certainly be as flexible and as equitable as we can in responding to flexible work requests that may come through. So again, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing many of you in the next few days or next week when most of us are back on campus. So thank you. And I hope you downloaded the slides. And Adam, do you know when the information will be posted on YouTube? I know it takes a little while.
It should be up
Right away?